Hi, welcome to Chef's Kitchen, and in today's episode, I'll be with food critic Martin Dawes, where he'll be discussing Henderson's relish and the food scene within Sheffield, discussing how it has changed and is evolving within Sheffield.
Hello, my name's Martin Dawes. I was food critic for the Sheffield Star for 25 years, and since I've retired, I've written a food blog, and you can see what I've been writing about lately by just putting my name and food blog into Google. Well, look over my shoulder now, and can you see the former factory of Henderson's Relish?
Yes.
Now bought up by Sheffield University and primped up, but it used to be the factory where Henderson's Relish, a very local sauce, was made. Now, it might seem to you that this was a very odd sort of thing for a town to have its own sauce. But in fact, go back over 100 years ago, and it was very common. Every town and city of size had its own sauces. There were usually two. One was a brown sauce, sort of called a chop or a fruit sauce, and the other was a kind of a vinegary sauce. Think Lee and Perrins. Well, in Sheffield, think Henderson's relish, except without the anchovies. For some reason, I'm not quite sure why, quirkily it has remained very successful in its own area. The second thing I think would be the Sheffield fish cake. Now, you probably think of a fish cake as fish and potato all mashed up into a patty.
But it's not.
Not in Sheffield, no. It's actually a layer of fish, usually cod, sometimes haddock, between two slices of potato, slathered in batter and deep fried. Now, you cut it up in half, and you look at the layers like a geological diagram, and local people say batter, tatter, fish, tatter, batter. And the third thing, what goes with fish cakes? Perhaps mushy peas. Now, why is it special to Sheffield? Well, because for a long time, mushy peas were canned here by bachelors in the north of Sheffield, and mushy peas was a very popular dish. So those three things, I'd say, represent Sheffield. And not very far from here at Brook Hill was a lovely place called Butler's Dining Rooms.
Yeah.
It was started in the 30s and 40s and continued until the early years of this century.
Is it still open?
Oh, sadly, no. It's long closed, and in fact, it's fallen down. But that's another story. The great thing about that was it was a working man's cafe with formica tables, and in the 1950s, very famously, the artist Picasso was taken there for something to eat and drink when he was attending a World Peace Conference. That was in 1950. Now, the great thing about Butler's Dining Room was it was very traditional Trencherman fare, and they used to have a meat and potato pie, popularly called cow pie, which was cooked in a tin the size of a baby's bath. And the windows used to steam up. And it was said that people would come there to fire themselves up by eating portions of cow pie before attending the infertility clinic across the way at Jessup Hospital. I'm not quite sure how much to believe in that. Another place that I think about is Baldwin's Amiga, a banqueting suite in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. This was in an era when there were work stews, and every factory and shop and office used to have their entertainment at places like that, when they would have a good meal and they would dance. The thing about Baldwin's Amiga was that the food was of an exceedingly high standard, and it set the bar. It also produced an awful lot of catering chefs, catering people, a kind of a mini university in itself. And the last one, well, perhaps fish and chip shop. Now, there are plenty of excellent ones in Sheffield, but let's take the oldest one in the area, well over 100 years. It was probably going the same time as Henderson's was originally. That was Two Steps in Sharravale Road, and
Yeah.
it's served fish, chips, and mushy peas for well over 100 years. So when I started in the 1980s, there wasn't really an awful lot. There was the odd bistro, a scattering of Italian and Indian restaurants, although they weren't really Indian restaurants. They were
Very
from
foreign.
Karachi or Bangladesh. There were department store restaurants. Believe it or not, they were very popular. And there were department store restaurants, and there were hotel restaurants as well. It's improved because of immigration. Loads of primarily Italian and also Asian, Indian people came to work in the steelworks. Well, working in the steelworks is not necessarily that pleasant, but it's much better to work in a restaurant. And they saw a niche, gaps in the market.
Yeah.
And they opened Italian and Indian restaurants. Now, the menus at that time were what they thought the English would like rather than particularly authentic.
Yeah.
And things have improved massively over the years. And we've had other people come over. We've had Taiwanese, we've had Vietnamese, we've had the French, we've had Ukrainians. I was in a Ukrainian restaurant only the other day.
Yeah.
So things are on the up. And of course, as well, people, they got more money, they went abroad, they saw the food abroad, and they wanted it back here. Well, times are a little bit hard, you may have noticed, financially. There has been a burst of cafes opening up in Sheffield.
Yeah.
Cafes often just work in the daytime, so therefore there are fewer antisocial hours, because working in a restaurant is, it's not great for family life.
Where are these cafes opening mainly? Where in Sheffield are they opening?
All over.
Okay.
I mean, there's about 4 in Nether Edge, my neck of the woods. You can just walk through town. There are plenty of cafes. It's a more relaxed atmosphere. I think people can't afford necessarily to go out for a full-blown meal, but they'd certainly like to go out for a lunch or even just for a cup of coffee.
Yes, it's more expensive than it was, but it's definitely changing the Sheffield food scene. But
Sheffield's always been a little bit behind.
Thanks for watching today's episode with Chef's Kitchen and with Martin Dawes. Hopefully you've learned a lot about Sheffield's food scene and how it's evolving within Sheffield. Please like, share and subscribe on Chef's Kitchen's episode. Thanks, bye!